So now let's move on to gait, which is the pattern of walking. So gait is a complex cycle, complex process involving coordination between the muscles, joints, and the nervous system. Yeah, this is what I've been talking about. So it is all about a combination of neuromuscular control, balance, stability, and even energy efficiency is also plays a major role in gait system. Now coming to the types of gait, so normal gait is actually smooth, well balanced, whereas pathological gait occurs due to injury or disease such as antalgic gait due to pain, and whereas Trendelenburg gait due to weak hip muscles, and steppage gait due to foot drop might also happen in such cases. Yeah, coming to the gait cycle. So, simply saying gait cycle is nothing but the gait cycle includes stance phase and swing phase, starting from heel strike to the next heel strike on the same foot. Sorry. So, heel strike is nothing but whenever the foot touches the floor, whereas swing phase is nothing but the foot is lifted up from the ground, that is in the air kind of motion. And whereas toe off is also when the toe is taking off from the ground, whereas foot flat is nothing but in which the foot is completely flat over the ground, and mid stance is nothing but the stance which is mid between the swing phase and the stance phase, whereas heel off is nothing but when the heel is off from the floor. Coming to the key parameters of gait, so we analyze gait using parameters like step length, cadence, and speed. Whereas kinematic studies moment, while kinetic studies the force involved in walking. So, coming to the step length, explaining step length is nothing but the amount or the distance that is covered by the person or the foot. That is distance between the consecutive foot contacts. That is what's said to be as step length. Whereas step width is nothing but lateral distance between the foot. So, for example, one foot is placed over here, whereas the other foot is placed over here. So, the lateral distance between this is, we all know that this is medium, whereas this is lateral. So, the lateral distance between the two foot is said to be as the step width. Whereas foot angle is nothing but the foot, it's not compulsory or it is not necessary that every person has the foot to be placed in common neutral position. So some persons may have the foot to be tilted towards lateral angle, so that is what's said to be as foot angle. So the amount of rotation of foot that is happening over the foot is said to be as foot angle. Yeah, this is what I've been talking about. The kinematics of gait is nothing but hip kinematics, knee kinematics, and ankle kinematics, in which the hip extension that is ranging from 0 to 30 degree is also taken in consideration, whereas in knee 0 to 60 degree of knee flexion and extension is taken in consideration, which absorbs the shock and on full extension and mid stance, second flexion prepares or swing. So whereas ankle kinematics is nothing but dorsiflexion or plantar flexion that is ranging between 0 to 120 degree, sorry 20 degree. So plantar flexion at push off provides propulsion. Propulsion is nothing but making the body to move from one position to the other position, that is one place to the other. That is what's said to be as propulsion here. Yeah, this is nothing but there are determinants over here. So determinants like pelvic rotation and knee flexion make weak efficient. So in simply saying, that is the most important thing that is making walking efficient. So gait analysis helps in diagnosis and rehabilitation. So nothing but the gait cycle, as I told before, it includes the stance phase, swing phase, starting from the heel strike to the next heel strike of the same foot, so in which we'll be seeing ground reaction force, joint movements, and power generation. Ground reaction force is nothing but, so whenever our body is executing some kind of some kind of force towards the ground will also exhibit a certain level which is equal and opposite to the force that is we have been giving. So that is what's said to be as ground reaction force. Whereas joint movements is nothing but whenever a joint is involved in gait, so such joint will be executing some sort of force that is being introduced into the ground, that is said to be as joint movements. Whereas power generation is nothing but there are three power thrusts, that is nothing but hip extension, ankle plantar flexion, and negative power absorption, so at shock loading. So to conclude, understanding posture and gait helps improve movement, prevent